Welcome back, my friends. My next guest tonight is a best-selling author, financial columnist for the New York Times, and co-anchor of Squawk Box on CNBC. Please welcome back to The Late Show, Andrew Ross Sorkin. Nice to see you again. You got the new book. Let's push some paper.
Thank you, sir.
1929, Inside the Greatest Crash in Wall Street History and How It Shattered a Nation. More on that later. Last week, we're gonna get to it. We're gonna talk about things, things
we got a lot of things going on right now.
Last week, as I was talking about earlier, we learned about the proposed Netflix Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Everybody thought that Paramount had the inside track, and then Netflix comes in with this huge cash offer of $82.7 billion. That's billion with an illion. And now Paramount is launching a hostile bid for $108 billion. There's 26 more illions
that they could have used on this show.
Anywhere. They could have fed the homeless. Now, and Jared Kushner's somehow involved, and Saudi and Abu Dhabi and Qatari sovereign funds.
Yes.
Why so much money from them? What's going on?
Look, you got two major players in Paramount on one end and Netflix on the other that desperately want to own the library that is Warner Brothers Discovery and HBO. That's what it is. And
so it's just for the intellectual property.
That's a huge part of it. Now, Paramount is a slightly different animal. They want to also own CNN. They also want to own the Food Network and all of the linear properties that come with it. Both of these bids are little apples and oranges in a way, but they're both fighting over effectively the same thing. And this is now going to be a combination of a follow the money story in terms of who's going to ultimately pay the most. And it's also a follow the 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue story, because this president has already declared, and it's really the first time we've ever seen this, that he's going to be involved in the decision-making when it comes to the regulations and whether one, bidder, effectively's deal gets allowed to happen or not.
There's a still rising stock market.
There is.
Relatively low unemployment at 4.4%. And yet so many people feel like the economy's not good right now. Only 36% in recent polls say it's a good economy.
Right. The affordability gap.
The affordability gap. The plurality of people in polls blame Trump for things being too expensive. Square the circle for us. Why are things relatively good on paper but bad for the people?
Look, I think when wages don't always keep up with inflation, when products cost more, and especially because everything's relative, it's like, what did something cost 6 months ago or a year ago or 2 years ago? And how often do you show up at the supermarket or, I took a cab across town today, and you'd be shocked at how much it costs. And so I think people...
How much did it cost?
You don't want to know. You don't want to know. My wife doesn't want you to know. The point is that when you see these kind of numbers, and they are surprising because it's a lot more than it was a year or two or three ago, you say to yourself, this doesn't feel good.
There's a lot of concern right now about that AI may be a bubble.
Yep.
Okay. If it is a bubble, and I'm not saying it is, if it is a bubble, what survives this bubble? Because during the housing bubble, when the bubble burst, there were still houses. During commodities bubbles, like the silver and gold late 70s, there was still silver and gold when it was over. What survives this? Because it seems like everyone's racing to be the winner of this. The bubble is putting money into all these different corporations who are actually kind of supporting each other by buying from each other. If this bubble bursts, what's going to be left over? Just some chips somewhere out in the desert and a lot of electrical bills?
So look, I think there's hundreds of billions of dollars coursing through the economy right now via the AI bubble. And that's not just in semiconductors. It's people constructing these data centers. It's the energy complex. It's real estate. There's a lot of stuff. And those people are going out and hopefully they have jobs and they're buying stuff and watching shows like this, and people are advertising to them to go buy more stuff. So this is having a real effect on the economy. The question is, if the bubble bursts and all of these AI companies, which don't make enough money right this moment to pay for all of the stuff they're committing to go do, if that doesn't work out, if the math doesn't add, The problem is not going to be that we won't have AI in the future. It's that there's going to be a moment at which banks won't lend anybody money because they'll be on the hook for all of this. These tech companies will scale back. People will lose their jobs. They won't be spending money, and then it will filter out to the rest of the economy.
Has any of these companies made any money?
Look, Google makes an enormous amount of money. Amazon makes
but has the AI made any money?
The AI?
Well, the AI branch of each of, like, Google's got their AI. Yes.
If they stopped investing in more and newer and better AI, they probably actually could make money. The problem is that they are in an arms race, and technologically, there's a place they're all trying to rush to get to, so they have to keep spending more and more and more money, and then we all are going to be using more and more of these services, and therefore it requires more and more power, and so that's where the economic problem becomes.
Okay, I don't know if you've heard about this book, but you got a new book here called 1929, Inside the Greatest Crash in Wall Street History and How It Shattered a Nation. What happened prior to 1929 that created the greatest crash, and do you see any of those factors today?
Well, look, the 1920s arguably created the modern society we live in today and are very similar in many ways to today.
This theater was built in 1927.
1929, most of New York was built in the 1920s. It's remarkable. But the biggest shift in the early 20s in America was we started to take on debt, credit. People never took on loans. It was a moral sin in America for most human beings to get a loan. Proper people did not do that. And it was in 1919, General Motors said, how are we going to sell more cars? We're going to loan people money so they can buy our cars. And that flipped a whole switch that changed America. And then Sears Roebuck started doing it with appliances, and then Wall Street started doing it with stocks. And they said, you want to go buy a stock? You can come to our little brokerage house. They were on the corners of streets like Starbucks back then. And you'd walk in, you'd give them $1, they'd loan you $10. And there was so much excitement. There were companies like RCA, that was like the NVIDIA of its time. And people were going out of their minds. They were going bonkers to buy this stuff. The stock market between 1928 and 1929 went up by 90%. And people thought that they hadn't been on the train. They thought, this train's leaving the station. I got to get on. And of course, come October 1929, things went the other way.
And do you see any of that behavior now, Andrew Ross Sorkin?
Do you?
You're the guest. You got the book.
I think right now, and when I started writing this, I started working on this 10 years ago. I just wanted to write an awesome narrative to get you inside the room, to make you feel like you were really there. That's what I thought I was trying to do.
It doesn't read academically. It reads like just a story.
But the scary part was, as I was working on it, I kept going, oh, that happened? Tariffs happened this year? Well, that happened in 1930, and we saw what happened to the economy then. This idea of democratizing finance, that was the biggest theme in the 1920s. It's the biggest theme now with crypto. And AI is the hottest thing. RCA was the hottest thing. So yes, I do think, unfortunately, there are parallels. Doesn't mean we have to have another 1929. I wrote a book, which we've talked about, Too Big to Fail, many years ago, about the 2008 financial crisis. And I always said, this book is supposed to be a prequel to that so that I don't have to write a sequel.
Well, I hope we don't have you back for the sequel.
Let's avoid a sequel.
His book, 1929, is out now. Andrew Ross Sorkin, everybody. We'll be right back.